It's a way to start the show. Hello, everybody. I'm Bart Robley, and welcome to the Drummers Education Connection. Today, we got a great guest on. I'm here with two of my favorite people. Our friend Rick is not here today, but I got my buddy Jeremy Steinkohler up in the Bay Area in San Francisco. Out in Tucson, Arizona, we got the man, the myth, the legend, Chip Ritter, the juggling drummer.
Hello.
And his dog is poking his head over his shoulder. And then, where is he? There he is. There he is. And then we got bass player extraordinaire Jim Wootten was with us today. Hello, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, man, this is fantastic. So today's topic was one that, I've wanted to get on for a while. I really think that it's important. What we do here a lot is talk about drums and drum stuff and how to be a better drum teacher and be in a band and stuff. But the thing that's so important, I think, within the working relationship of a band is that relationship between the drummer and the bass player. Absolutely. And how you make that work, how you make that dynamic work, right? And Jim is, for those of you guys that don't know him, Jim is, an incredible musician. He works in so many great bands. He's a bass player for Led Zepagain. He is the bass player and singer for The Long Run, Eagles tribute band. He has a Crosby, Stills and Nash tribute. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. His father was Red Wootten, who played with Frank Sinatra and Benny Goodman and so many incredible musicians. So the guy's definitely got music in his blood and in his family. So welcome to the deck, Jim.
Thank you.
Again, so let's start it this way. From a bass player's perspective, a simple question, but I think an important one. What makes a good drummer for you from a bass player's perspective?
I've played with so many drummers over the years, Bart, and I think the thing that we appreciate most is a drummer that's got a very solid kick foot. The guy that just really lays it in there, because at that point, it's so hard to not get into the groove with him. Somebody that's, and in fact, a lot of the guys that I really enjoy are the guys that just really lay it down between the hat, snare, and kick, because when they lay that foundation for you, it just makes your job, so much easier. I've played with guys in the past too that favor playing the ride rather than the hat. And I've never really cared for that, because it just seems to loosen up the groove to me. I don't know. Do you guys feel that way as drummers? Some guys are really good at it. If they're like Jim Kersey, that guy was so solid on that. But other guys it's just really made it kind of loose and, not feeling like it's grooving right,
Right. I think that I think depending on the part of the song you're in, and the song, depends on what you're doing. But yeah, that the groove has got to be tight and solid. And I think that as a teacher, the teacher in me, I always kind of go back to that. Groove, time, and feel. Those are the three most important things for drumming. And if one of those is off, then
Well, that makes sense. Jim, I'm guessing you always set up on the hi-hat side of the drummer, right?
I would prefer that, Jeremy, but the thing about it is in Zeppelin, John Paul Jones set up on the right-hand side, and I'm not sure why that was. Maybe Jimmy Page just preferred to be on the left. So I've had to go to that side. I would much prefer being on the hat side, because then, man, it's so much easier to really lock in.
Right. Well, it makes sense. The hi-hat's got all that more staccato and the attack, and the ride's got a more diffuse sound, right? So it makes sense from a bass player's perspective that it's easier to lock into that more metronomic feel of the hi-hat, whereas the ride's a little bit more open. But like Bart said, of course, there's so many songs, there's so many parts of songs where the ride is essential to switch over. You give the lift to the chorus or.
Sure. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And in the long run, it's funny because I'm not even next to the drummer. I'm like far stage right. But It's not a problem because we are all on in-ear monitors. So we're able to dial in our own monitor mix. I put kick, snare, and hat. I don't even do toms. I just do kick, snare, and hat. and that gives me all I need in order to lock in. But the other groups, I'm in a James Taylor, Carole King tribute. I play to the left of the drummer, as well as I'm in a Bred tribute that I just joined last year. And I'm to the left as well. So I try to make that happen, when I can. But if the stage aesthetics of the band, the original band, are not that, I have to kind of go with what it is.
Right. So Jim, are all the gigs that you have, it sounds like you play in a ton of tribute bands. Is that sort of your main interest and your main focus?
Yeah, that's basically all I do now to make a living, and just playing tribute bands. And probably my main two are Led Zepagain and The Long Run. And then the others, what I try to do is fill those in on Sundays, weeknights, things like that, just to try to get some supplemental income from those groups as well.
So I've had a couple of tribute band gigs, and the homework that I've done is to I end up transcribing all these parts and trying to play them as close as I can note for note. But also there's sometimes, of course, when you have some leeway, right? If it's an open solo section, or a jam, like you're not going to be playing every little note.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
But I'm curious about for you what your approach is with all these bands. I mean, are you trying to play these parts and reproduce them just like they were on the records, with the feel, with the tone?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. That's I mean, from when I first started playing, I've always tried to develop the ethic that whatever is being played on the record, I want to try to reproduce live, because I kind of look at it like, the song is almost like a puzzle, and each one of us in the band has a piece to that puzzle. And if we're not doing what was on the record, it's not going to sound right to the listener. And I think that separates, the good tribute bands from the mediocre ones, are the guys that say, hey, I'm going to get it exactly like the record. And when people walk away, they just say, wow, that sounded exactly like what I heard, back in 1971 or whatever, when I first heard it, I was like, wow,
sure.
It's so accurate. I think accuracy is really a key to being a good tribute band. And I know Bart's group, they are so on it. I've seen them several times.
Thank you.
Stage, and you guys, you have that ethic, and that's why you're one of the best.
Well, thanks, Jim. And I am back at you. I've seen Zepagain so many times. And it's just what a great group. Now, what, that being said, we're kind of turning down this tribute band road. That's fine. That's cool. I have a question for you on this. Okay. And this is out of curiosity. We both also share the relationship with Michael Blum. We've done all those recordings with him and whatnot.
Oh, sure.
And that was, from a drummer's perspective, man, it was a lot of work, and it was a great way to go to school. I learned so much from working with him.
Yes.
I found that in the catalog that I recorded, I had a few things to deal with. Number one, I had a lot of different drummers to cover, because the way Seger would record his parts was he would use the Silver Bullet Band on one side, and then he would use, the Muscle Shoals rhythm section on the other side of an album.
I see.
So you had a few different drummers you had to cover.
I see.
And then he had songs that were hits that were the live version of the song, right? Not necessarily the studio version.
You're
Now,
right.
I know that kind of mostly the stuff for Zeppelin that were big hits were all the studio versions.
Yes.
How do you guys distinguish between which versions you were going to record or you were going to do? Because, you had to go down that road, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We for those particular sessions, we definitely took the original recordings, to be the what we aimed for. to try to be as exact as possible with those. I mean, I don't know if you ever talked to Jim Kersey when he recorded those, but he literally charted them all out.
Yeah, me too. That's what I did too.
Yeah, and he just played to the click. He didn't even play with the band. He just laid it down to the click, had it all, you know, in his mind, and watched the charts, and then we just laid our parts on top of that. Yeah. Yeah, we tried to. I mean, we really went through with a fine-tooth comb and tried to get all of the overdubs, all the guitar overdubs. I would lay down the bass part first and then put on the keys if there were any keyboard parts to add. So yeah, we never did try to replicate the studio. I mean, the live versions until we actually did a recording where we were replicating The Song Remains the Same. So we did the same thing with that, which was a little bit easier. Because it only involved 4 instruments at a time. You didn't have to worry about overdubs and all of that. But Michael had us in, and we did a recording called The Fourth Night, meaning at Madison Square Garden. They did 3 shows at Madison Square Garden, so we did.
Oh, cool! That's awesome. That's great, man.
The lost vault tapes.
That's right.
Right.
And so yeah, we put that out, and that's actually available on. Let me see. Is that available on Amazon Music? No. We did the Sound Remains the Same, which were original recordings, Volume 1 and Volume 2, and you can get that on like Spotify and Amazon and all of that. But yeah, the live recordings, we even have one sitting ready to release of 1975, the Earl's Court concert. We haven't done the finishing touches on that yet, but so we've tried to delve into both sides of it. But those initial recordings, when we first got together with Michael, were centered on the original recordings, the studio.
Jim, cool. I've got a question for you. When you are playing in these tribute bands, do you research the rig that the bass player used in the original band, and you then go out and purchase that bass and that amp setup? And the same for your drummer. Does the drummer play the exact same drums, or at least the same sizes, or the same setup and configuration as the drummer in the band?
Yes. Yeah. Yes to both questions, actually. We have the exact amplifiers, the acoustic 360s that John Paul Jones used in the it was actually late 60s. He used it all the way up till about 77 when he switched to Gallion Kruger at that point. But I have both of those setups. And yeah, I got the 62 Jazz reissue, which he used, as well as the 51 Precision reissue, which looks like a Telecaster bass. It's kind of a butterscotch finish. And the drummer, the drummer is just a complete Bonham fanatic. He's got all 4 kits that Bonham played. He's got the maple thermoglass. His name is Derek Smith. He's got the green sparkle kit, which was early 70s. And then he's got the Vistalite kit, of course, which was from 73 to 77. And then he's got the chrome stainless steel kit that he used from 77 to 80.
So, cool. But I mean, for you, it's one thing to have, 4 or 5 different basses on the stage, and you can grab a different one if you're playing a different song from a different album. What about your drummer? I mean, he only has 1 kit on the stage at a time, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So they have all 4. It's a huge stage. But he runs back and forth all night.
Yeah. It's in the round.
It's 1969. He goes to the maple kit. It's 1977.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Right. Well, if you want to be authentic, this song was played on the Vistalite. So I'm kidding.
Yes. It's funny. The Vistalite is probably the one that's most recognized.
Right. Most iconic.
The Bonham kit.
Right.
But I probably like that the least
Yeah.
to play with, because there's so much overring on the toms. The bass drum's kind of dumpy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
It looks so cool. You know?
Yeah, right.
Some people
What's your
swear by those.
favorite set? Which one's your favorite to play with?
Yeah.
I actually like the maple thermoglass. It just seems to have a really tight kick, and I'm able to lock into a little bit easier. And the 71, the Sparkle kit is probably next in line.
So beyond the equipment and sound, I mean, there's obviously so much more to playing to playing the part, authentically, right? I mean, the feel is like the holy grail with a lot of these songs. So, obviously you guys have done a ton of listening, right? And digging deep into these recordings and like really trying to figure out what makes them tick. And I'm sure you've watched all sorts of videos, watching them play, right?
Absolutely.
So what would you say is, I don't know, like the secret, or I don't know if the secret's the right word, but like the key to like obtaining the feel from these original recordings?
Great question.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot does, a lot of the responsibility does lay on the drummer, because if he's not playing, the exact pattern that is on the record, then nothing else will feel right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's really down to his work ethic, and the guys that I've played with in Zepagain have definitely had that. They've been very precise with everything, and so I've been very fortunate, because you guys have all played in bands. You know that if one part is not exactly like it was on the record, it's not. You're going to say, "Hey, what's going on here? This doesn't feel right. Something's not jiving." And so, I think the drummer being the foundation there is really important. And then, it's funny. I find with a lot of bass players that are in tribute projects, sometimes they listen to the bass part and they go, "Well, that's cool, but I think I can come up with something cooler."
Oh, man.
And when you when that happens, it's time to show him the door.
Yeah. The thing is, whenever I hear, because sometimes drummers do the same thing. I've had drummers go, "Well, I would have put better fills in, or I would have changed the groove." And my first question is, well, who are you to question? Well, in your case, Bonham's groove. I mean, who are you gonna? Why would you question that? I mean,
Exactly.
really?
On the flip side, unless you're playing at this top level that Jim's talking about, like let's say you're a local, you're in your local town and you're a tribute band for whatever, name your band.
Yes.
Sometimes, I can imagine there could be a situation where a drummer might play, if he tried to play the part just like on the record, he's not quite pulling it off, right? It's too hard for him or something like that. And so
Sure.
he play something a little bit different, more in his wheelhouse, it would sound better, even if it's not authentic. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate.
Yeah. Yes. No. I think you're right. Sometimes a part can be beyond a guy, and then it's better to simplify.
Right.
But if that's we try to in all the groups that I'm in, we try to bring in guys that it's like, yeah, this guy can handle.
They can do it.
Problem.
Well, you guys are at the top tier of these tribute bands. They're playing big arenas, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We have played at some really, really big places, especially down in like South America, other countries. I remember we played in this huge like bullfighting arena. It was just like, wow, this is crazy. But
not during the bullfight, though.
No. The after party.
Yeah. Then you'd be running around saying banana, banana, banana.
Banana, banana, banana. This is where I need to be behind the drums. I could have given you a rim shot. I'll give you a cymbal hit over there.
I'm sorry to ask all these questions, man. I'm just curious. And this is my last one. Then I'll pass it off to Chip, because I know he's dying. He's got a bunch of questions percolating in his brain.
Oh, sure.
What did the drummers read?
Yes.
While they're playing?
No, not while they're playing. They basically commit it to memory.
Wow.
But initially, if there's some intricate things, I know Jim and Derek both will, chart it out and make sure they've got it written out to where they know exactly what's happening there. But yeah, they will commit everything to memory, and I try to do that too, because I just don't like to be tied to charts
Sure.
on a gig.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, you can't, even if you're playing John Bonham note for note, you're not channeling John Bonham if you're sitting glued to a page, right? There's no way.
Right.
But
Yeah, you're right.
but at the same time, that's a lot of stuff to memorize. I mean, not
Oh,
just like
yeah.
the part, but like you're the basic groove and here's the iconic fill, but like entire songs, note for note, all memorized. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, it
yeah.
really is. I mean, I don't envy them in that. Our drummer, Derek, has a site called Kick It Like Bonham, where if you go there, he's got all kinds of tutorials where he's actually playing to the original recording.
Cool.
And yeah, it's fascinating to watch it all happen and see all the fills right in place and where they're supposed to happen.
Nice.
So he's done that, to kind of help younger drummers who are Bonham fanatics try to, understand how to play the material.
Oh, fantastic. Hey, Chip, you want to put that in the comment? There, I'll look at
Yeah, I
you.
just did.
You're way ahead of me, dude.
I got it. KickItLikeBonham.com.
Man, I'm definitely checking that site out. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, so
for
I got.
Jim.
Oh, go ahead, Chip. Sorry.
Oh, I
sorry.
was just going to ask. We got some. If you had a chance to talk to some younger drum students
Yes.
that were learning the art of music on the drum set itself, from a theory standpoint, like as a bass player, what would you recommend younger drummers focus on to make the most out of creating a groove with a bass player? What are they supposed to listen for, and what do you think they should be aiming at?
Great
Yeah,
question.
I think, yeah, I would say, man, all we want as a bass player is just give us something solid. So I would say concentrate on definitely having a strong kick, because I'll tell you, I've played with guys in the past where it's just like, just barely padding it. And man, it makes it so difficult on not only the bass player, but the entire band, because that's what we're relying on to kind of, be our foundation. So yeah, I would say, just get real strong with that pattern, all the different drum patterns between the kick, snare, and hat. And you'll make every bass player that you play with extremely happy at that point.
Right on. Do you prefer when a drummer locks in with your bass line with the bass drum, or do you want them to stay out of your kitchen sometimes?
Oh no, I love that. I don't think there's anything that compares to that when that bass is hitting right and in sync with the bass drum. I think it really propels the band when that's happening, correctly.
Cool.
I mean, yeah, it's. I think about times in the past that I've played with guys that are basically just barely tapping it, and it just, the band has no punch at that point. It just loses any kind of drive. So yeah, I absolutely love that. I try to study what's happening with the kick foot, and a lot of times I'll just stand back there and watch the kick foot as I'm playing with them, to make sure that I'm just really locking in tightly with them.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. On the Zeppelin catalog, there's
Yeah.
two songs, and I don't know why they always come to mind that are iconic for me, and that's obviously "Good Times, Bad Times." You don't really listen to that kick drum a lot. There's a couple notes that a lot of guys miss, and then also,
Yeah.
"Fool in the Rain." That, to me, it's the best halftime shuffle ever recorded.
Absolutely.
When you listen to what Porcaro talks about, oh yeah, when I did Rosanna, I listened to "Fool in the Rain" and the Bernard Purdie Shuffle, and that's how I came up with Rosanna. Everybody that's the due north for a halftime shuffle.
Sure,
So
absolutely.
locking into those is so essential. Now,
Yes.
this kind of makes me think of another question. A while back, we had Mitch Marine on. He's a drummer for Dwight Yoakam, and he plays bass as well. And he said, he goes, playing bass, affords me to listen to when I'm working with a drummer, I know what not to do. I know immediately what not to do, because like a drummer will try a brand new drum lick that he's just been practicing. And I'm like, not here, not now. You're driving me off the cliff.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you a question that's kind of the opposite of what Chip asked. Jim, what would you tell young drummers to stay away from? Just don't do that. Give me the time, give me the groove you're talking about. What are some of the things that you, like a drummer tries something, you're just like, oh, you're killing me here. What's some of that stuff? Give us some of that.
Man. I played with a guy one time, Bart, it was an Eric Clapton / Cream tribute. And man, this guy was like filling every bar. He was filling every bar. It was just so frenetic and so hard to lock in with. It was absolutely a nightmare. It was probably the worst gig that I've ever done. I just thought, oh man. And it wasn't just me that was noticing it. Everybody else was going, dude, I mean, can you kind of settle back into a groove every once in a while rather than feeling like you have to fill,
He thought he was in a Who tribute band.
You just read my mind. You just read my mind. I swear. I always say that if you're playing a Who song, it's like playing a drum part that an octopus played.
Exactly.
How did you think of that?
There's that Keith Moon documentary, right? My Octopus Teacher.
Yeah. Exactly.
Jim's up there going, banana, banana, banana. See? I got it in there.
Bananas are safe for today.
It's so funny though, Bart, that you would mention Dwight Yoakam, because we're doing a show on the 15th with the Long Run, and we've got a sub coming in to actually sing the Henley vocal, and it's the bass player for Dwight Yoakam. I'm going to his house tonight. It's a guy named Eric Baines. Do you know Eric Baines?
Yeah,
he's the bass player with Dwight Yoakam, and he's actually he's an incredible singer, incredible bass player. He's filled in for me with the Long Run several times over the years before he started with Dwight's band, and he plays drums, he plays keys, he plays lead guitar. The guy is a phenomenal multi-instrumentalist. But we're going over to his house tonight to run through all of the stuff for next Wednesday's show. That's so funny.
That's cool. Do you know Mitch? Do you know?
Oh, I've never met Mitch. I just know that Eric had joined Dwight's band. It was would have been about 4 years ago now.
Yeah. Mitch is a great guy. He's I used to give his girlfriend Jill. I gave her drum lessons for a while. He's a great guy. Yeah. That's how he got on the show. So anyway, or that's how I knew him to get him on the show. So that's great. So in regards to locking in with the drummer, since you do play with so many different bands, let's say on Friday night you're playing with Zepagain, and then Saturday night you're playing with Long Run.
Sure.
And I know the drummers for both bands are phenomenal. The musicianship is so high.
Yeah.
However, when you get to go from one gig to another, do you ever have that point where it's, I'm having a little bit of a hard time locking in right at first because you're in a different mindset? How do you go from
Yes,
from gig to gig and get the mindset right and get the drummer bass player thing locking in night after night? How do you make that happen?
I think at this point, because I've been with both bands for so long, let's see, for the Long Run, I've been in 17 years, been in Led Zepagain for 20 years now.
Wow.
I've been able to adapt pretty quickly to each guy's style. Berto, who's been the drummer in the Long Run since 2007. So we've been playing together for a good 14 years. And he's also played in a couple other bands that I've been with over the years. So I'm very familiar with his style, where he likes to fill. And the same thing with Derek from Zepagain. So that hasn't seemed to be any kind of a problem for me. I've been able to kind of fill right in. And because everybody has that same ethic of trying to be exact with everything, it makes it so much easier. But, Yeah, to your previous question about what do you tell people not to do? It's funny. That has happened on 2 occasions, actually. I just happened to think of another time where I went on a tour in Japan, a week-long tour. And both of these guys, I don't want to name the names, but you would know both of these guys. You would know
Okay.
them. One of them is actually the son of an extremely famous drummer. And the other one actually has played with AC/DC, you know, a lot of,
Yeah.
and the thing about it is, I think when the drummer is kind of the name of the band, you know, everybody is going, you know, to see them. Sometimes they feel like they have to overplay a little bit because they're the focus of the group. And
Right.
you know, nothing could be further from the truth.
Right.
You don't want that at all. You don't want that overplaying and, you know, trying to fill, because, you know, you're missing key points of the song. You know, I think when a fill has to have purpose, it has to bring you into a dynamic part of the song.
It's a setup. It's a
yeah,
setup.
exactly. So when you're filling on every bar or every other bar, it doesn't serve the song at all.
Right.
You know?
Well,
A
that's
lot of
the
young drummers are missing that.
yeah.
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
And
I know some of those grooves have got to be kind of boring. I mean, Kashmir with a dum, da, dum, da, you know, I mean, the whole song almost.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
boring, you know, boring is a relative. It's an important word, at least in
Mhm.
my teaching practice with my students, because a lot of my students will come into me and say, "That song's boring," or "This groove's boring," because it doesn't change. You
Sure,
know,
sure.
and I try to disavow them of that mindset, because it's like, man, if it's feeling good, like
Yes,
you can do that all night long and have you know, just the greatest groove and the greatest pocket and the greatest show,
sure.
and it doesn't have to be full of variety to be interesting. But I mean, that's to me as an adult. You know, when I was a kid, I thought the more different stuff I
yeah.
threw in, the better. Until I finally listened back to a recording of the show like that, I was like, oh my god, it sounds awful.
Well, I think, Jim, you've said this a couple of times, and I've always tried to I use the term serving the song. I had a whole clinic based on playing for the song, you know, that
Oh,
I've done
yeah,
off of the Bob Seger catalog. And I think that, you know, yeah, okay, you said Kashmir, you know, old time rock and roll. It's a 4 on the floor.
sure.
Um, some of those songs, that's what works. It doesn't matter, like you said, Jeremy, if it's boring, right? There's 2 songs that I always point to if a drum student says, "Well, it's boring for me,"
Yeah.
or I had a drum student one time said, "There's no such song. There, every song has fills in it." I go, "No, no, 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 no." And so I picked 2 songs right off the top of my head. I said, "Michelle" by the Beatles, right? That
Yeah.
song just swings, you know, because the kick drum da, stays the same all the way through. Then I went the polar opposite. I went to a Led Zeppelin tune. I go, you know, the Immigrant Song. There's no drum fills in there. It's just 2 minutes and 30 seconds of hell on your right foot, man. Just go, you know, beat that thing like it owes you money and
That's right.
go, you know.
That's
And then
right. Yeah.
believe it or not, another song, and a lot of people don't really think about this one, but it's a whole other subject. It's open-handed, but Journey's "Don't Stop Believin'"
Mm.
played open-handed, and it's kind of a whole piece that crescendos up. It's not there's no fills in the song. It's just a groove that kind of builds upon itself.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think you have to serve the song, and I, for one, try to listen to the vocalist. You know,
Yeah.
if the singer's trying to sing like this, well, I'm probably rushing, you know.
Yeah.
And if he's trying to pull you along, maybe I want to kick it in the butt a little bit. You know, you got to serve the song, but you got to kind of listen to the singer. And I would imagine in an Eagles thing, especially, you have everybody singing in those 5-part harmonies. And man, you've really got to create a pocket to keep those things together. That would
Oh,
be a nightmare, you know.
yes. You know, it's funny for that situation, Bart. We actually have we run on a click for every song on that
We
one.
do too. We do too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's so much easier to, you know, to really lock in with everybody when you have that click audible in your ears. I mean, every guy in the band has it. So, and I probably have it up a little higher than everybody else because I want to really make sure that I'm locking into both the metronome and the drummer at the same time.
Mhm.
But With Zepagain, yeah, it's not that situation. Everything's kind of happening in free time, and whatever whatever it's counted off as, that's what we're going with.
Right,
Okay.
right. Well, there's so many time changes, tempo changes in that music too.
Oh yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
You can't,
Right.
you'd have to have someone manning the metronome to be programming all the different sections in and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, this question comes out of more curiosity too. Then, now that you said that, Jeremy and Jim. So when we recorded the Seger stuff, that kind of spawned me into getting some other recording work with Michael.
Oh,
Did did you guys cut all the Zepagain stuff to click?
we did.
Because I know like certain songs you can listen to them and the catalog breathes. I mean those songs move.
Yes, it does. We we made a decision to use the click. I mean, Michael prefers that, as you know.
Yeah.
So we did do it that way. I actually was the one that figured out what the tempo was for each tune, and I just wrote it down for the whole track list. And so we went in there, and Michael set the metronome, and we just and Jim played to it by himself first. He preferred that.
Yeah.
And
I did all that stuff. I did that stuff the same way. I
you
read
did
it and just cut it. It's good. From the second album on,
I
and
see.
then a lot of the other re-records that I did, same thing.
Yeah.
Jim, how many songs do you have in the Zepagain catalog?
So we know there's, let's see, there's 86 songs that Zeppelin had recorded. We know about 75 of them, I believe. So we are able to, vary up the list greatly from night to night. There's 4 songs that we always do, and I'm sure it's probably like this with you, Bart. You have to do, a certain amount of songs every night to satisfy people, and that's Rock and Roll, Whole Lot of Love, Cashmere, and Stairway to Heaven. Those have to be in there. If you don't do one of those, somebody's gonna complain about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we have those too.
The Zeppelin's Mustang Sally's.
That's right.
Right.
But other than those 4, we're able to vary it up. I mean, when we go on a cruise ship and we're playing like 5 shows in a week, man, we end up playing probably in excess of 50 tunes during that week.
Right.
And we'll ask people, hey, if there's anything you would like to hear during the week at our next show, just write it down on the sheet next to the stage here, and they do. And we'll come in, we'll play those songs for them, and
that's cool.
It's really great because with Zeppelin, there's not a lot of songs that you can really consider like unknown deeper cuts. Probably Presence album, most people know Nobody's Fault and Achilles' Last Stand, but the other stuff might be kind of unfamiliar. But the other songs on all the other albums, most people are familiar with them if they're a casual Led Zeppelin fan.
Right. Now, what about like for the recording stuff? You mentioned you figured out the tempos and stuff like that.
Yes.
One of the songs that seems like every drum student wants to learn at some point is Black Dog.
Oh yeah.
And the time actually changes in that. It goes from 4/4 to 5/8.
Yeah.
How did you guys navigate that with the click? How do you guys navigate that with the click?
And before you answer that question, can I throw something in to add to that question?
Sure.
I read that when Led Zeppelin recorded Black Dog, they deliberately tried to make it so that no other band could cover that tune. And so they threw in all these odd bars of time. There's like little snippets of 3/8 and 5/8 that are mixed in.
There's a bar of 5/4 too. There's a bar of 5/4 in it too.
Yeah, I know there's all these weird time things happening in there.
That's
right. And so they made it deliberately so that band time covering it. Now, of course, you guys are pros, but anyways, I thought that was interesting. I want to throw that in before you.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, to Bart's question, Michael actually mapped it out to where it had all those time signature changes on the click, which was that was really a trick, but I know Jim helped him with that. You know, he literally went bar to bar and said, okay, now you'll have to change it here. And he did it, and Jim went in and he just laid it down. And that made it, you know, to where Swan had to be, when he came in to sing it, man, he had to be right in there, but he had to click as well. And he was able to, you know, able to get through that without going out of time at all. But I remember, when Jim was in the group, we would be playing the song, and when Swan would sing the vocal, Jim would give us like 2 clicks to get into the we've kind of got it now to the point where we're just playing off of where Swan is and the timing of that, and just coming in all together. Yeah, it's definitely not an easy song to get in sync, but if you listen to it enough,
it is in time, right.
Yeah,
difficult but not impossible.
Yeah,
on Black Dog, I've heard people swear they can hear, like you said, Jim gave you 2 counts. I've heard people swear they can hear 2 clicks. I can hear 1.
That's right.
I can hear 1. I never hear the second one. I'm like, I'm listening to my head. I don't hear it. I hear 1, but I don't hear 2.
Yeah, it's like click, exactly. I heard that too. But for some reason, Jim just thought it would lock us in better if he were to do the 2, and it seemed to work. But yeah, you're right. I think it's only 1 on the record. And you know what's really I think vital to playing Zeppelin music is to try to play on the back of the beat. Because I've played with guys that have played on top of the beat, and it never feels right. It's like, wow, it seems like we're rushing this, you know. Whereas
Jim, could you explain the top and the back of the beat a little bit more clear for some younger drummers that may be watching? What do you mean when you say on the top of the beat?
Yeah, where they're just kind of playing actually like right on the beat is probably not right for Zeppelin. You need to just kind of relax back a little bit and just play it where you're just at the very end of each beat of the measure, to where it's really funny, but just doing that, relaxing it a bit, just makes the song sound heavier.
Just thicker.
Yeah, exactly. Cashmere is a great example of that. If you're doing the hi-hat straight or even a little bit ahead of the beat, man, it just does not groove right. It's like, wow, this is not sounding right. It sounds like the song's too fast. You know, and I think that one, as far as the tempo, I know for sure, because I always practice it on the keyboard to a metronome that it's 80. And going above that at all, man, it just sounds too manic and doesn't sound like it's grooving right. It's a very strange thing, but when the drummer understands that, to kind of just relax back on it, just hit it right at the back end of each beat, then it just sounds heavier and fatter and just sounds like, oh yeah, that's what Zeppelin was about. You know,
right on,
Jim. When you ask most drummers who is the best rock and roll drummer of all time, the vast majority of them are going to say John Bonham. Some may say Ringo Starr, some may say Charlie Watts, some may say Keith Moon, but a whole giant chunk of them will say John Bonham. You've spent more time than just about anyone on the planet digging deep into the Led Zeppelin catalog, listening over and over, figuring out what makes those songs work. Why is John Bonham the best maybe the best rock and roll drummer of all time?
Great question.
The guy was just such a force back there. I mean, he was able to hit them really hard and drive the band so hard that they became probably one of the heaviest sounding hard rock groups of all time, strictly based on his playing style. I've played with guys that have played the music. I'll go to a jam and the guys will say, "Hey, let's play some Led Zeppelin," and they play it, and it's just like, yeah, you're playing the fills and you're playing the pattern right, but it just doesn't have the same oomph to it. When you have a guy that's just driving it through the back wall, then you're achieving that sound.
Loud and solid.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And if you go to see Zepagain playing the song Kashmir again, it's another great example. By the end of that, Bonham, when he played it live, he did a lot, like just a flurry of fills to kind of drive the song up through the roof. And I literally, as we're playing that song and watch our drummer do that, I watch the faces of the people in the audience, and it just drives them to such an excitement just because of what the drummer's doing. The rest of us are just playing what we normally play, that G minor scale going up, ascending scale. We're just all doing that. But what he's doing is taking it to a completely different level. And that's what I think about when I think of John Bonham. If you're doing him justice, you're just driving everything really hard and really solidly. And that has a huge impact on the audience. Huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, Jim, but I think one of the things that was essential to Bonham's playing, over and above the fact that he was an amazing player, he always had the same size tubs. Everything he used was the same size, but he just tuned the drums so darn good. He just knew how to tune. He tuned it more like a jazz drummer than he did a rock drummer, and they just sang. And I think that had a big part to do with it, because he really, he is only a 14-inch deep bass drum, so it's 26 by 14, and that air moving, it just, man, it's almost like a marching bass drum, man.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And, it's funny, but because it got to the point where early on when I started in Zepagain, I was, just playing, with my regular amp setup. But because of that huge kick drum, I realized, what? I think I would benefit from actually having some in-ear monitors because that allows me to hear my bass signal over the top of that kick drum very clearly. Whereas, if you don't have that, it's like, wow, man, it's kind of hard to really hear what you're playing out there. So I've been using in-ear monitors and saying, give me kick, snare, and hat, and put my bass in there, just up above that. And oh man, it's been huge as far as being able to hear and lock in with that. Because, with the 26-inch bass drum, there's a lot of overring on that. You said it's like a marching band. Doom, doom, it's like, wow, how do I lock into that right?
Yeah.
But if you have a very clear signal of that in your ears, then you can do it, effectively.
And with Zeppelin and the Beatles, I mean, there's a lot of, but Zeppelin and the Beatles are like a religion, you know?
Absolutely.
And those two drum sets, and you mentioned the four kits that Bonham played, right? The amber bisylite, the maple, the stainless steel, and the green sparkle. They're as famous as the drummer is, just like with the Beatles, the blue and the black oyster wrapper is just as famous as Ringo. You got to play that kit. So if your drummer's playing a 22, even though it's a Vistalite, everybody's going to go, you got to play. He has to play that big 26 for the look. And so then when you're trying to lock with that, I can imagine that's pretty tough,
It really is. It really is. And I think that's why I prefer the maple kit, because it seems to have a little tighter kick to lock into.
Sure.
And I think that's why I prefer that particular kit. Sometimes if the Vistalite is not mic'd correctly, and I've got it in my ears, like, oh man, wow, this is boom, boom. And it just, that overring, that's what you don't like as a blues player. You don't like to hear a lot of overring. And that's the problem with filling too much, because it's like, when you're playing the toms, they've got natural overring that kind of muddy up the groove. And that's what you don't want as a bass player. You want to be able to hear a clear, defined sound to be able to lock into.
Right. Exactly.
Do you guys
Jeremy,
dress? Do you guys dress in the same way that the band looked in a certain era?
Yeah, we do. We've got outfits for the Royal Albert Hall, like 1970. We've got the 1972 How the West Was Won outfits. We've got Song Remains the Same. So I've got that jacket that he wore with the balls and
balls on it. Cool.
And then we've got the 1977, which was the kind of like the Seattle Kingdom look. And then we've also got the Nebworth outfits as well. So we kind of focus on those six eras. And we all have the costumes to match that. So we just say, hey, you guys want to do, 77 tonight, or, and everybody just brings those outfits basically.
Do you guys ever get any feedback or blowback or anything back from any original band members?
Oh,
not
this is
at
good.
all. Yeah, not at all. In fact, Jimmy Page came to see the group in 2004. He came to the House of Blues, which was in Hollywood at the time. That place is now an apartment complex.
It's a parking lot.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, he came to see us back in 2004. And it was so funny because people were saying beforehand, the promoter says, oh, hey, guys, by the way, Jimmy Page will be here tonight. We're like, yeah, right. This guy's he's smoking something.
Right.
There's no way in hell Jimmy Page is going to be coming to our show. We didn't even entertain the idea of it.
Right.
And about halfway through the show, our tech comes over and puts a note on the drum riser that says "Page in the house."
Oh man!
So the guitar player, drummer, singer all look at it. I'm over on the far right, so I'm not privy to any of that. So they look at it, look at each other, and I'm thinking, what's going on over there? So I had no clue. I had no clue he was there. He was up in the VIP section, hanging over the rail, watching the band. And so I didn't know until when we went off stage and the crowd was calling for an encore. And I said to the stage manager, is it okay if we play one more? He says, yeah, he says, but I would make it a fast one because Jimmy Page is up in your green room ready to meet you guys. And
oh,
we're like,
man.
What? So after I went and changed my shorts,
yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, that's the kind of thing that this better left unsaid until the end of the gig.
Yeah, right.
Man, if I found out, John Bonham, of course he's gone.
Oh,
was when my drum hero was in the audience, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was insane. We went back out. We played probably the fastest version of rock and roll that you could ever imagine, and literally put down our instruments and ran up the stairs. You remember there was like 2 or 3 flights of stairs to get up to that green room. Yeah. Literally ran up the stairs. I got to the door and I realized the guitar player was there, and I said, yeah, go ahead. This is, you're the guitar player. You need to be the first guy to meet him. So we all went in there. He hugged us all and was very complimentary. And he says, you guys weren't just playing the songs. He says, it was like you were inside the music. And the guitar player says, man. Well, he says, yeah, we've heard them a few times. We've heard them.
But still, that's the highest compliment you can get from
yeah, it doesn't get better than that.
That's amazing.
And honestly, guys, from that point forward, everything just took off because I told the guitar player, Jimmy said before he left, he goes, well, I suppose I should at least get a picture with you guys. So he put his arms around us and we got a picture with him. And I said, that needs to go on the website tonight. As soon as you get home, put that on.
Yeah.
So that went on the front page of our website. And I'll tell you, everything just started elevating from that point. And a lot of the times, like when we would do an out of country show, I would ask the promoter, hey, there's hundreds of Zeppelin bands all around the world. Why did you choose us? And invariably they say, I went around to everybody's website, saw the picture with Jimmy Page with his arms around you and said, oh, that's the band that I want. So
wow.
it was instant credibility, instant credibility.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And that situation led to 3 years later, Zeppelin played at the O2 Arena, 2007, their big reunion concert after 19 years. And Jimmy Page's manager invited us to the show.
Oh,
we
man.
got to go to the show, go to the after party, meet all the guys. It was the most incredible thing I think I've ever been involved in.
What a great story. That's
so cool.
Yeah,
that's so great.
It was awesome. And Jimmy Page, who sponsored a charity at that point, actually petitioned us to play the shows, for the charity. So he's one of the few guys that I know that would actually complement the tribute situation, because I know a lot of guys, a lot of the original artists don't like it. They don't like, having tribute bands out there playing their music for whatever reason. So
Bob Seger hates it. He really does. Yeah, he really does. Yeah, it's a deal.
What he says about it. What kind of comments has he made, Bart?
I've heard different things, and I won't say on the air, but it wasn't anything against us. I mean, it was actually, there was nothing negative said. It was just that he didn't dig it. It was his music, and he keeps his stuff pretty locked down, like where it was distributed. It was never on iTunes until we went up, and stuff like that. So, that was back in the days of iTunes, because I know that happened to Zeppelin too.
That's right,
because of you guys.
Yeah, that's right. Once we did it, and Michael Blum realized, hey, Zeppelin isn't up on iTunes right now. We'll just put our stuff out there and see how the downloads go. And they just started going through the roof. And he said, and that's when he contacted Sam, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously Bob Seger was not on iTunes at the time, and neither was AC/DC.
Right. He signed. There was 5 of us that he worked with. It was you guys, and then the AC/DC band, which was Bonfire. Was that the one that he signed? Yeah, because they did all the Bon Scott stuff, right? And then which one's Pink? The Pink Floyd one, and then they did some stuff with he did the Fab Four, the Beatles stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Fab Four, because they weren't up there either. Yeah.
And that's why I asked you about the Click, if you guys recorded the Click, because I know because Rollo from the Fab Four is a good friend of mine. He said when they recorded, he didn't cut to Click. He listened to the Beatles records, and he cut to the Beatles records so the songs would move.
Yes. Rollo and I graduated high school together.
Really? No kidding.
Yeah,
dude, Rollo's awesome, man. I love Rollo.
Great. Oh man, that guy is.
Man, you ever watch him play something? He plays the percussion with one hand and plays the drum part with the other, and I'm like, dude, how do you? And he nails it. He just nails it, man.
How about Strawberry Fields, Bart?
Oh, dude, come on.
That is absolutely insane what he does on that. Yeah,
it makes me mad. You're not supposed to do that, man. You're just not supposed to do that. Rollo's. We got to get Rollo on here. That dude's salt of the earth. Hey, in closing, I want to ask one last question, Jim. Yes. So, and I think this is a good one. And I don't care if you're a drummer, a bass player, a singer, whatever instrument it is that you choose to pick up. You're a young kid. You want to get in a band. You want to go play. You want to do the stuff. Yes. What's the piece of advice that you would give to somebody about being in a band? It comes to a point where you take for granted that you can play. We all have to work really hard at our chops and our feel, our time, all that sort of stuff. But what's a piece of advice you would give to a young person about being in a group, working in a group? What would you give?
I would say just try to, to be as professional as possible, be on time for one thing. That's, You know, that's something that, you know, we don't talk about a lot, but it's very important, you know, as far as being in a band and helping the rehearsals to run efficiently, and also at the venues when you go to play a show, you know, to just to keep that relationship with the sound crew, and to be there and make them realize, oh, these guys are serious about what they're doing. You know, I think everybody appreciates that right offhand is being on time. Number two, like you said, learning the material to the point where when you come in there, you don't have to waste everybody else's time by saying, oh, you know what, I didn't learn that one. You know, can I listen to that? And everybody's sitting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't want to waste everybody's rehearsal time because you come in unprepared. So being on time, being prepared, and then just having that work ethic, if that's what is required. If you're in a tribute project, that should be how you approach it is, man, I'm going to learn every fill on this record. I'm going to memorize, you know, every time signature change, if there is one, and just get it down so well. Because if you do that, you know, Bart, you're going to work. You're going to get work doing that, because that's what separates the really good bands from the bands that are playing for $50 a night in a dive bar. You know,
right. Exactly.
Right. Great stuff.
Yeah,
Jim, it's been a real pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to the Drummers Education Connection.
Oh, absolutely. It was an honor to be a part of it, guys. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you bet, Jim. Thank you so much. Chip, you got any final questions for our buddy Jim?
No, I just want to say thank you so much, Jim. It brings a whole different light to bass players, and I think I'm warming up to the instrument now.
He's going to go try to make a bass player friend today.
I used to ask bass players, how's it feel being on the dark side? And I don't know if you've brought some light to the subject, so thank you.
Oh, man.
Come on, man. Be nice. Be nice. Okay, so next week on Drummers Education Connection, this is going to be a great show. This is going to be our second Deck the Halls, our Christmas special, our holiday special. We got some great giveaways. We got some stuff from Aquarian Drumheads. I got a stack of stuff over here from the Kelly Shoe, from Drummeo. Drummeo, come on, man. Drummeo's the biggest drumming thing on the internet now. So we're so excited to have them give us some stuff to give away. Aquarian Drumheads, snare weights, right, Jeremy? And Hudson Music. So
yeah, we're also giving away a drummer's guide to juggling video from your friend Chip Ritter.
There you go.
We'll be giving away copies of our books.
Yes.
Finding the Groove and Bart's book and Rick's. So there's a lot. This is all free, 100% free. All you have to do is tune in and answer some really simple trivia questions like, what's your social security number and your mother's maiden name?
Perfect. Right. We got what school did Jim Wootten graduate from? And awesome. Hey, everybody, have a great day. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next week on the Drummers Education Connection. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jim.
So much,
See you guys.
Thanks, Jim.
Good day.